Hello there everybody, Jordan back again with another review, and this is going to be for Scream 3, carrying on my Scream review series, and this is directed by Wes Craven and stars Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox and David Arquette. Bodies start piling up in Hollywood on the set of Stab 3, as the new Ghostface killer will stop at nothing to find Sidney Prescott. Now, this is a film that seems to be having a little bit of a resurgence lately. I've seen a lot of people online say that this is nowhere near a bad movie or the worst Scream movie. I've never actually thought it was a bad film because I think Scream is a very consistent franchise, but it's always been bottom of my pile of Scream films. So if this is the worst movie in your franchise, you're doing a pretty good job so far. But going in, I did wonder if my mind would change a little bit. I didn't think it would, but you just never knew, did you? And yeah, I had a little bit of excitement going back to this one just to see if I, see it in a new light or whatever. So let's get into it. Scream 3. I gotta say, this is a pretty strong opening once again. I do think it's my least favourite of the openings of the original trilogy, but still pretty solid. You got Cotton Weary. It was a pretty big and prominent character in these movies. Not really in the films too much. I mean, he was in one little scene in Scream 1. He was in it a little bit more in 2. But he's always been a big background character. He's always been an important cog in this story because he was framed for the murder of Sidney's mother, which this movie heavily plays on, by the way, Sidney Prescott's mother, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. But it just seemed fitting to take out Cotton Weary because of where the story is kind of going to go here, exploring the background of Maureen Prescott. He's the one who's got big links to her and everything. But I really like how, Ghostface is stalking Cotton Weary's girlfriend in the shower and everything, and he's racing home to get to her, and Ghostface takes them both out. So a little bit of a welcome to Scream. Again, it's just these movies do what they do and get you in the mood with their strong openings.
Christine, get out of the way! Oh! Behind you!
And what I do like about Scream 3 is that it takes a very new and fresh approach to telling a story here by being on the set of Stab 3 in the middle of Hollywood there, and you've got Ghostface taking out these cast members one by one in order of what they die in the script of Stab 3. I just think that's a very interesting way of doing things. It's like a movie within a movie. I don't know how hard this must have been to film this movie. Filming a movie set while you're on a movie set. I mean, I don't know if they got the cameras and everything confused here or whatever. I think that would have been a little bit of a frustrating nightmare, but I'm not a movie director. I don't know. But I've always thought that movies that film movie sets, I bet that can be a little bit complicated. But anyway, I just like this new fresh approach where you're seeing actors play the real life people and interact with their sort of better counterpart there, where you've got like the guy playing Dewey talking to Dewey, and Dewey's giving him little pointers on how to play him as a character. You've got Dewey dating the fake Gale Weathers, the woman who is playing Gale Weathers, and then Gale Weathers comes into the movie and there's a bit of back and forth between them two, sort of fighting over Dewey in a way. I just think it was a really cool and fun dynamic to have. I do like the fun exploration we do get into Hollywood here. I mean, it's not uncommon for these Miramax films to do this. Do you remember Jay and Silent Bob, where Jay and Silent Bob actually visit the movie sets and everything? So I just like how we see how Hollywood works, basically, how people are hired and fired here and there, how characters and cast members go about their business on these movie sets. Yeah, I mean, at the time, especially, I was growing up as a kid and watching this movie and just being taken aback by how movie sets work. That was like my first introduction onto how movies were made, really. It was actually Scream 3. And one thing I've always appreciated about Scream 3 is that it also tries to do something new with Maureen Prescott's background and the history of her character. In Scream 2, it kind of just felt like a revamp of the first film, although I do really like Scream 2. But here, I'm very welcoming of the new ideas, with the stab set and everything. But this as well, with the history of Maureen Prescott. A lot of people don't like origin stories. I've always appreciated them. I've always liked the more exploration into characters' background, how they became what they were. I mean, she's not exactly a villain or a psycho killer, so it doesn't make her for that interesting of a person. But it's still somehow made interesting in this movie to see how she became sort of the person she become and how she got all mixed up in Hollywood, because she kind of went missing for a couple of years and she was under a different stage name here and everything. And you've got Sydney sort of having flashbacks of her mother in these dreamlike scenarios. Not usually a fan of dreamlike scenarios, but they kind of work here. And it's all just about this killer being linked to Maureen Prescott somehow, and it really does come to fruition in the reveal of the film. Now, a lot of people don't like the reveal of this movie because Roman, it just feels like a little bit of an easy writing scenario that he is the brother of Sidney Prescott. But I don't know, I kind of like it. I think it wraps around the whole Maureen Prescott story very well, because he's like this jealous kid where Sidney got all the attention and he got no attention, and he's just some random guy's son that she kind of slept with while she was away on Hollywood and everything. I don't know, I really like that. I think that's a really good motive for a killer to have. He's not one of the strongest Ghostface killers or anything, but he's decent enough, and the motive is solid.
Roman Bridger, director. And brother.
And it makes all of the Maureen Prescott backstory in this film have weight to it. And I really like Randy's little trilogy tape here. In the first film, we had Randy explaining the rules of slasher films in general, and then in the second film, we have him explaining the rules of sequels, and here it's the trilogy where anyone is at stake, even Sydney, the rules of trilogies and how things usually go, what to watch out for. Randy is a great character, and I'm glad they brought him back, even just for this one little scene, because it keeps the consistency of how these horror films are working with the whole trilogy aspect of things. It's a really fun scene to see him, even though he's dead, on this tape that he's made for these characters, because he knows they're kind of in a movie.
We say good luck, Godspeed, and for some of you, I'll see you soon.
And I don't really want to be on repeat mentioning the characters in these reviews, but they're all kick-ass again. Gale Weathers definitely gets better with each movie. I just think she becomes more of a human, more of a kind of person who actually cares about people and actually wants to track down the killer instead of getting the news story. She kind of becomes that in 2 a little bit, but here even more so. And she doesn't take shit from anyone, especially the girl who is playing Gale Weathers in the Stab 3 movie. The whole her and Dewey argument at the start of the film does feel a little bit tired, but as the movie goes on, you really grow to like them again. And they have this little redeeming arc, really, where Dewey's even asking her to marry her at the end of the film. So yeah, I've always loved Gale Weathers. She's my favourite character. Sydney, again, is kind of in the background a little bit here. There is a reason that she, was only able to film certain scenes, which I'll get to in my fun fact at the end of the review. But she's solid, she kicks ass again in the third act like usual. I love this little trio of characters, always have done. However, guys, I do have a few negatives with this movie, and there are many reasons why people think this is the least best Scream movie, and one of them is this. Yeah, Gale's fringe. One of the most infamous horror haircuts in history. What were they thinking? Now, one thing I didn't remember about this movie is that Ghostface actually uses this device that he's talking on the phone to use different people's voices. So he might be using the voice of Roman, the voice of Sidney Prescott, the voice of Gale, to trick characters into thinking that it is really them. And I totally forgot about this going into this movie, and it's only in the opening scene that you kind of see it, but I don't like it. I just prefer when Ghostface is on the phone to be Roger L. Jackson's voice. It just makes the character of Ghostface, even though we've had lots of different characters playing Ghostface, Roger L. Jackson, like I said in my original Scream review, makes this character his own with the voice. And yeah, it kind of just feels like it's cheating the audience a little bit there. I don't know. It just feels like a bit of a cop-out at times. But it is always fun when it actually turns into the Ghostface voice, when characters sort of become surprised and shocked. But I just don't like that the Ghostface character uses different characters in this movie for the voice. But there's one moment where I think the character's name is Sarah, who plays Candy, is her name? Is it Candy? where Ghostface is pretending to be Roman on the phone, and he just changes it up and says something so sinister down the phone to her. So yeah, it is fun at times, but I really wish he wouldn't use other characters' voices. Just doesn't work for me, though.
What? What movie?
My movie. And it's called Sarah Gets Skewered Like a Fucking Pig.
Also, the kills here, they're not really the most memorable. Nearly every kill in this movie is just a stab kill, and nothing much more to it. They're not very creative or shook up a little bit. There is one other kill in the movie where someone blows up in a house, and it is the worst kill in the entire film, even though it's a more different and a unique one. Because I call bullshit on that kill. Ghostface is basically faxing through the script of what is going to happen to these characters in the house, and they're all panicking, and then they all run out in case something happens to them because he's threatening them on the fax machine. And one guy runs back and says, "I need to know what this script says." A very stupid movie character decision, but he runs it anyway, reads the script. It's too dark because all the electrics are out. So he goes into the kitchen, picks a lighter up and reads it, and it says, "Whoever smells the gas first will die," and then the house blows up. But you've really got to suspend your disbelief with this kill. Any sane person would just get out the house. No one would run back in thinking that Ghostface is in there just to read the script to see who dies next. And Ghostface has really got to rely on so many things to happen there. So it's one of my least favourite horror movie kills, to be honest. It just seems very silly. Also, I think it takes the Hollywood sort of approach way too gimmicky. I liked it, like I said in my positive, where we're exploring the film sets and everything, but there are moments where Jay and Silent Bob are walking past, and it just feels very goofy. There's also a moment where we're speaking to Carrie Fisher in this film, and she says, "Oh, I'm not the real Carrie Fisher. I just look like her. The real Carrie Fisher had to sleep with George Lucas to get the job in Star Wars." And I'm looking at her, and it's Carrie Fisher, unless she's got an identical twin. Are we meant to believe that that isn't the real Carrie Fisher? I know it's an in-joke with the movie, but it just seems very silly that this Carrie Fisher 100% lookalike is working at this reception desk. Yeah, it just goes a little bit too far with all that self-awareness.
I was up for Princess Leia.
I was this close. So who gets it?
The one who sleeps with George Lucas.
Now, one thing that's always bothered me about this film is one little line of dialogue that most people won't even notice, but Sidney Prescott is in hiding in this film, and her father comes to visit her because he obviously knows her location. It's a damn father, right? And he says to her, while she's all shook up and panicking a little bit, "Why don't you just come home now, kid?" I don't think that's the best idea, Dad. I really don't, because she would be even easier to find. I know it's a little tiny nitpick, guys, but it just always bothers me. It's just like, how dumb is this father? She's better in hiding, surely. But my biggest negative with this movie goes back to the reveal. Like I said, I like the motive. I don't mind Roman as the killer. But just beforehand, we see Roman dead. In a coffin, dead. With blood all over him. And I don't like that, because the movie goes on for another 5 or 10 minutes, so you're wondering who the killer is, because you obviously think it isn't Roman. And this movie just cheats the audience. The whole fun of Scream is to guess who the killer is. It's a whodunit film. But when you're showing me people actually dead, how am I meant to guess for the next 10 minutes who this killer's going to be when he was lying right there? But you cheated me as an audience member. I have never, ever liked the way the movie did that. So, unfortunately, less points for the reveal. Even though I do like Roman's explanation and everything, I just don't like that moment where we are meant to believe that he's a goner. I'm just going to go ahead and rate this movie. Now, guys, I do think Scream 3 isn't all that bad, but it does have more problems than Scream 2 and the first film. So I'm going to give Scream 3 a 6.5 out of 10. Still a pretty good score, and this is just my opinion. But I do like the first two better still, and I think I'm going to like 4, 5, and 6 better than this on rewatch. But who knows? Going to be doing a big ranking at the end of these movie reviews, so look out for that. Okay, guys, at the end of these reviews, I always like to leave a little fun fact. Now, a fun fact for Scream 3 is that Sidney Prescott gets less screen time in this movie due to shooting schedules with other films. They only had her for 20 days. So that's why they kind of put it in the background a little bit and try and make the story work around her. But still a very solid character in this movie. I think they got it right with how much screen time she had and still made it very prominent in the movie despite less screen time. Okay guys, hope you all enjoyed this review. Don't forget to check out my other Scream reviews. And what are your thoughts on Scream 3? Do you disagree with me? Do you agree? Please do let me know in the comments down below. It'd be fun to get everyone's thoughts on this film because I know it's a little bit divisive these days. And if you like horror, please give this video a like and subscribe to this channel. It really helped me out. You all take care guys. And I'll see you all in the next video.